where you're joining it from. I hope you all have been a great Christmas celebration and amazing holiday weeks going on. And as we are preparing ourselves for next year, 2025, we have an amazing call lineup with a growth expert. We're going to just talk about the strategy today. So I'm going to invite him. And sorry for a couple of minutes delay. We had some technical glitch in the back end, so we were fixing that. And our guest is waiting in the back room. But I'm going to pull him on. But I have a great kind of announcement to make. April 11th, mark your calendar. We are with our team and everyone coming to India and opening up our office officially. So that's the final date, and we are arranging a big investor conclave kind of an event. So if you are watching us from India, please hit me up on LinkedIn, hit our team or anyone, send us a message that you are interested to support, interested to come over, and we'll loop you in into the event conversation as well. Just one quick suggestion or a kind of like an insight that I want to share before I jump on call with Royston. We're experts on the strategy building. Reflect yourself what you did in 2024. If you're a founder, if you are an emerging entrepreneur, or anyone in this venture ecosystem, you know, we did the last newsletter. What we talked about is just our entire journey that we have like covered in 2024 every month on month basis. That gives you an insight and kind of like a data to think about what kind of strategy that you need to be building for to kind of accelerate your growth in 2025. So reflect in next couple of, not couple of 2 days, we are just like 2 days away from heading 2025. Reflect what you did in 2024 and then be prepared. And I hope 2025 is going to be an amazing year for you, for our loved one, for us as well, for everyone. Before Without any further ado, I'm going to invite Royston on the call. Kisla, would you mind pulling Royston on? Hey, Royston, how are you doing?
Hey Ash, great to be talking to you after a while.
Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, likewise, great to see you. I
Where are
think
you
we
calling in
last
from?
spoke like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I know we spoke a couple of weeks ago, and then I asked my team, "Hey, Royston is an amazing person that we should invite in our pet podcast some point." And our team was like so quick to get you on. So kudos to the portfolio team at Expert Dojo, who always does an amazing job. So this week, Royston, I was saying before you were on the call that this is the time for reflection before we hit 2025, right? This is the time to see what we have done, where we're coming from, and what should be our target for 2025 in general, right? Like, and build the strategy around it. So I think everyone is enjoying the holiday with their loved ones right now. It's like the week all around the world when everything is like slowed down. We have a time, we have more headspace to think about what could be our strategy, how we can do better in life, better in our career and stuff like that, right? So I'm so glad that we are wrapping this year with the call with you talking about just strategy, nothing else, right? So why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and talk, walk us through your background. And before you do that, let me just give you an overview. What's the purpose of this call? So every Monday, we start our week with high energy folks all the time. And the high energy folks in our venture ecosystems are our founder, the portfolio companies who are building and doing amazing things, or the growth experts having expertise on their specific domain that they are like having expertise on. So every second Monday, we swap the call. One Monday we do with our founders, another Monday we do with our growth experts, our brain trust. The reason being, the audience point of view, if you see, we have like emerging entrepreneurs watching the show, our existing founders watching the show, investor watching us the show, and other growth experts. So that way we expand our network and we get the people an opportunity to talk about their journey specifically, what they're doing, what they're building, and how we can make this better together. So that's the main purpose. So for you, bunch of entrepreneurs are watching this, so investors, growth experts, so any kind of possible collaboration that will have, it will follow. But then walk us through your background, introduce yourself for a minute or two, and we can dig deeper on the strategy.
Yeah, sure, appreciate that, Ash. I mean, for an intro, like where can we begin? But I came from the world of I studied accounting, finance, business, intern at the Big Four Deloitte, Bain Company. big three. I offers at like hedge funds, private equity, asset management firms. Then I started my own digital marketing agency right after university. Scaled that past 7 figures our first like 1 2 years. Then won the ClickFunnels 2 Club Award. Then ever since then, we've worked with more than 1,000 different clients across 100 plus different industries. Local lead generation, e-commerce, PR publicity, in all sorts of like niches industries. So here we are today. I've worked with like venture-backed startups, public listed companies. So I've seen everything.
That's amazing. I just want to add one more thing. I know you're not just giving your entire overview, but Royston has been also featured under Forbes 30 under 30, I think, right? Or Forbes list. I don't know exact the wording. Uh, and also, you have like accomplished a lot of things in your early days. Like, I think you're super young in your career as well, and you have done enough that the people, like who is kind of like in the venture ecosystem aspire to do all the time, right? So, Royston, where are you based out of, by the way? Are you in Singapore right now?
Right now I'm in Asia, yeah, for the holidays, but I'm
Hmm.
to and fro like the US and like Asia half the time. Cause my businesses are like business opportunities are between the two. So
Yeah, of course. And what kind of like what's your expertise in general? Like people who are watching this, so what should Royston like how they should know Royston for? Like what are your expertise, like your core expertise, if I may ask? I know you are into multiple businesses. You have like a lot of things, like where your head is into. But what's your one thing that your superpower is that the world should know for?
yeah, I would say like four quadrants. The first is digital marketing. So like we spend a lot of money, and we also help manage a lot on ads. So like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, Google ads. Number two is like social media growth. Social media organic growth throughout the different sort of platforms. We really have a really good understanding to it, and have done it ourselves. And the third final one is remove like online reputation management, like removal of any negative sort of publicity, vice versa, being able to get companies featured on like top publications as well, so positive publicity as well.
Amazing. So, there's a funny thing in this whole digital world right now. Nobody's trusting anyone, right? So, what's your perspective, Royston, on how we can get people trusted on what we are building? If I'm a founder and trying to solve a unique problem, how I can let our customer trust us? Like, what should be the strategy in general? People and the founder and people in the venture to follow so that people can trust us in this digital space where the information is overloaded like all around like and it's widely available. So what are the strategies, if I may ask you, since you have a deep expertise in this whole online world in digital world in general, like how people can enhance their trust factor in this whole digital economy right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ash. So trust is the lubricant on before like a transaction is made, whether it's B2C, B2B, government, whatever. Trust is needed for transactions taking place. And the elements, there's like a checklist of trust, like when it comes to human psychology and stuff, that we got to check off the tick boxes now. For example, number one is customer and client reviews. Do you have it in written form, in video form? Maybe review from like an authority in your industry. So that's like three checklists, got to tick. So like every human has like this checkbox and checklist in terms of like this psychological trigger biases. The more we tick it, the higher the trust factor is. So trust is not just like something we think it's like airy fairy. It can be quantifiable, and it can be, you know, made in a couple of checklists that we can slowly tick off. The more we have it, the more we stack it, the more level of trust it is.
No, you brought such an interesting perspective on like the checklist, and you just mentioned about the testimonials, from your clients, and is whether it be it a written format or a video format. I think, when people in the industry, people in the ecosystem is talking about you, talking about your business, then that's the best way to kind of get immediately trust factor on, right? Like, and that's what pissing element all the time. Like, even you can put, like, if you just go to Expert Dojo website, you'll see a lot of testimonials from our, our client is our portfolio companies thing. I mean, like, not portfolio companies, they are the converted client in a way, but our clients are like the founders, right? Like for VC in general. And if other founders are talking about Expert Dojo, I think that's the best way. That's what, our trust is being gained in the ecosystem in general. So you brought up such an amazing perspective on, like, where you can have like testimonial, like, overload your website with the testimonials, right? And then the conversion will follow from there, right? um, so in another, like, I'm just thinking out loud, like, what are the strategical thing that I should ask you. And what's your thought in general about, like, managing the social media, like, social, not mania, but social media as a strategical thing. Like, how can someone in their busy schedule in general, like, we have no time, like my LinkedIn has like a big problem. I have 1000 messages sitting idle. Sorry, people who are like hitting me on LinkedIn. I barely have time from my email and my day-to-day schedule and calls to go back to LinkedIn and manage. Either I can hire people who can just go ahead and reply on my behalf, but I'm skeptical doing that all the time, because you never know what kind of conversation you want to have with the person. There might be an existing communication that is happening, and then a weird reply will come. Okay, reach out to us ash at expertosa.com. Like, what, why, like, that's not how it should work. So that's why, like, it's so hard. Maybe like my replicated version of AI could go at some point and manage it, clear all my messages. But what's your what's your thought in general, how founders specifically, if I may ask, can manage their social media? Because every single message you are losing, technically, like, I think you are not replying, you're losing an
Mhm.
opportunity, right? Be it an investor hitting you if you're a founder, be it a client hitting you for the customer point of view as well. So you shouldn't miss even single communication out, right? That should be the one thing that
Yeah.
I know, but I still suck at it, right? So I would love to know about how someone can manage their social media. I mean, like, stay active all the time, like post at least 3 4 times. I don't know the stats. I would love it from you to have your insight on how many times someone posts on LinkedIn. Or let's talk about LinkedIn in general, because I know most of our professional world is sitting on LinkedIn in this venture ecosystem, or be it other social media as well. So what's your thought in general, like how someone can be stay active and also in an active communication with their audience base on the social media platform in general? What are the social media strategies that someone need to follow it for 2025, coming stronger since the beginning, or maybe the new year resolution to maintain?
Yeah, for sure. I'll answer it. And just wanna, gosh, Sean Zhu asked a question: at what point should we scale from organic content to paid ads for my coaching offer? Sean, if you could provide some context in terms of like what coaching offer it is, like what you're selling, price point and stuff, then I'll be able to answer it better. That's a great question. Yeah, so to answer your question, Ash, I think that's a really great thing. I know you're like super busy and stuff. I remember like when we were messaging and stuff, you're like so busy. It took you like a couple of months just to
My
finalize.
policy again.
Yeah, but I appreciate, like you're such a nice person that eventually you come back now. I'm the same as you, like I'm busy, like my WhatsApp, my stuff, I get bombarded, but eventually I'll reply people, of course, out of respect, courtesy and stuff. Um, okay, Sean.
Yeah, we'll come back to the question later. First, you just say your insight about the social media strategy. I don't want you to lose the track of thoughts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for example, like my social media, I've my team who manages it for me, so I think it's, for example, LinkedIn, like we need to think like LinkedIn, are we using, people use LinkedIn for either two things, recruitment or outreach and sales, I've used it for both, and I've like a Google sheet that any like important leads and stuff, I'll put the name in the Google sheet. Then I'll categorize. Is this like an important lead to follow up, or is it just like a normal lead? Very important. So I think transferring the lead from LinkedIn or whatever social media platform to a Google Sheet so that I can follow them back again, follow up with them again. I think that's super important. That's number one, to categorize. Number two is if you're like super overwhelmed, you can always like hire an assistant to help you like sort through as well. And if there's some sort of common sense, like any important sort of messages that stand out, um, anything that they can't answer themselves with like a templated message and stuff, they'll send me a screenshot on Slack, like, hey Royston, like how should we answer this and how to attend to this and stuff. And this was another interesting concept I learned recently. I saw on LinkedIn, like this guy was telling about the difference between scale and the difference between compounding. Just because something doesn't scale doesn't mean it doesn't compound. And you're using the analogy like, oh, in the beginning, like the Airbnb founders were going to like New York City and stuff. They're like, yeah, it doesn't scale, but it compounds, because that's the initial thing that needs to kick off the snowball effect. So like I implement that as well. Like sometimes, we gotta do things that doesn't scale, but it's the initial sort of required effort. Because some people just want to like try to scale, like blitz scale, try to make things fast and efficient, but sometimes we gotta understand which stage are we at.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important point. Like, as I mentioned earlier, like every communication, every message matters. It doesn't matter when you're applying, you should be like prompted replying to the mails and messages if you can, only if you have a bandwidth. But if not, but always reply back because you never know what message you're missing could be your next big $1 million customer that you are missing, right?
Yep.
So, it takes time to convert, right? Like it's okay. Like everyone is super busy, but never miss an opportunity to kind of communicate with the folks that hitting you specifically. It doesn't matter if you are hitting them or not, but then if something coming to your inbox, I think that's an opportunity knocking your door.
Mm-hmm.
Be the conversion factor from the client perspective you see, or maybe investor. You never know because investor also change early stage founders all the time, right? Um, I know you are sitting in a boot of like an investors as well. I mean, like founders, pardon, or maybe you might be investing on the side as well. I don't know about that, but since managing like having a service based company is a big pain, in a way, in its own way. How do you see, what are the biggest learning that you have from your own experience that you want to share to the founders that who are watching you? So like what are the mistakes that a founder needs to avoid if they're starting up their company? Because I know you have been, you're yourself a founder, a serial entrepreneur. At the same time, on the other hand, you've been consulting a lot of early stage entrepreneurs as well. What are the things that you see all the time, like founders repeatedly doing the same mistakes over and over, and how they can overcome that? Like what are the three things that you see founders making mistakes in their early days, and what are the three strategies they can use to kind of like not to say make the same kind of mistakes going forward again in 2025, because that's the year we have been waiting for.
Yeah, great question. I mean, common mistakes and pitfalls, like it all depends on like how like which sort of founders are we talking to, like how sophisticated they are, like how sort of rookie sort of mistakes they usually make and stuff. um yeah, sorry, just looking at Sean's message. Yeah, that's great, John.
No, okay.
um
Right after that, we'll come back to Sean's message. But just you share your top three mistakes that you see in the founders making in early days, and three strategies that they can use to kind of overcome those mistakes, and then we'll come back to the questions afterwards. Okay.
yeah, sure. So top three mistakes, number one is like in the beginning, I'd say um like a lot of concepts people say, like we don't really understand it until we really experience it ourselves, then we can really internalize it. So like what I found is like great execution itself is like a mode in itself. Like a lot of people think, oh, the strategy, the idea got to be really good, oh, we need like this network effect, like all this kind of like proprietary technology and stuff. But sometimes what people fail to understand is like if you execute very well, that execution itself can be that mode already. and like business is truly all about for most people it's all about execution, because through execution you're able to really maneuver and really pivot and really discover a lot of things that you wouldn't have otherwise seen. Yeah. So I'd say having a bias in execution in the beginning. Number two is got to be great in marketing, marketing and sales. um More so I would say like I've a bit of that, more bias than like being product focused and stuff, because like you see the most successful companies in this world, it's they don't necessarily have the best products, it's all about the marketing and sales are the best. Just take a look at a lot of like direct to consumer celebrity brands. They're successful not because they have the best product, but because they have the best marketing and sales. So that's number two. Number three I would say is um like there's so many things.
I
uh
agree. There are like so many things. Like since you brought such an amazing point, like marketing strategy is like a very important piece and aspect of a, doesn't matter what company you're building. It's service based, product based, or whatever it is, be it D2C or B2B, your messaging, your marketing messaging, and the way you are putting your brand out is important factor. That's why we
mhm.
talked about the trust factor earlier, because that's something that speaks to your marketing messaging as well. Because people who are going to get converted gradually, they want to see what are the clients have the company worked with, and what are they saying about the product, what they're saying about what they're talking about the company in general, right? So it's these all strategies are the part of building the domain dominance in general, right? And that's what you need to be doing all the time. So talking about the marketing is such an important factor, and I am glad that you brought it up. What do you think, like, what are the marketing strategies, like, in general? What are the top two marketing strategies that you think is very crucial for a founder to follow? And then we'll come back to the questions and Q&A.
Sure. Top marketing strategies. This one is something that I really like internalized, recently and stuff. Like a lot of people like they think like they have this product or service, then they only think how can he put this out to the market. But coming from a marketing background, being a digital marketer myself, nowadays is like the opposite. Like okay, we have that conception of this sort of service and product we want to want to put out to the world, but before like we really go far into it, we've already planned like how, like for me to get this out to the world, like what are the different platforms I can push it out to the world. Sort of more like a backward sort of approach, rather than thinking like, oh, I have this great product and service, then only think how can I sell this. More of like thinking like what channels can I already sort of like utilize, during the conception of the product or service.
Yeah, so I think you're mentioning and pointing out a channel as marketing strategy. It's like
Hmm.
channeling your product to the different, like, client persona in general. What's a like how someone can, follow the channel based marketing in general? Um, I'm forgetting the word, what they call it. It's like sales channels, like the way we have the sales channel, no, not sales channel, like funnel marketing, right? It's something like your channel, you're talking about the channeling, right? So what's your insight on funnel based marketing as a strategy in general? And what are the things that you see founders making mistakes when it comes to strategizing their marketing strategy or any strategy in general? What do you define strategy in your personal way, or in your word? And then we can talk about a little bit about the funnel based marketing, and then we'll jump on the Q&A. I know we have been dragging a little bit, but let me just, because the point that you are just like bringing it up, it's like just piquing my interest, and provoking a curiosity in my brain, like in a way to ask you more question about that, because that's something the founders are looking for all the time. So, how do you define a strategy building in general? I know executions matter the most, but at the same time, strategy in the back end also matters equally. So, how do you define a strategy in general, and what's your thought in general on the funnel-based marketing strategy?
Yeah, for sure. So if like strategies, like let's take something that we want to sell, for example. Let's say you want to sell like let's say we have like this project management software we want to sell, the strategy will be thinking like, how can I put this out to the market? Am I gonna use like LinkedIn ads, Google ads? So like before we go so far down in terms of like developing the product, we gotta really think like, what channels can I use where the unit economics make sense, like for some industries, like doing Google ads and stuff is like too cutthroat and like super competitive unless you're like bleeding money and stuff. So the strategy is like really having in the back of your mind, like, what marketing channels am I gonna use to put this out to the world, really depends on like what we're selling and stuff. For example, like Pranav said, he has like this grocery delivery service. So for example, like in a tier 2 city, okay, so
Yeah, I bought the question that Pranav asked, on LinkedIn. So what he's saying, I'm planning to build a grocery delivery service in tier two city in India. Can you guide me with an effective digital marketing strategies for this? I'm not sure how much you're familiar with the Indian market in general, but tier two city the same as it in Philippines or Singapore, like literally super crowded, lots of scooter on the road. So what? Just share your insight, like what he's asking. I would love to have your input on.
yeah, sure. So I'm not like diverting from your question itself, but I'm trying to use like a real life example because I can use like so many different examples now. So, example, using Pranav's example to answer your question, Ash, like
Amazing, cool.
let's say a grocery delivery service in a mass market tier 2 where most people are like, like sort of middle, lower class and stuff. Then you got to think like, how can you put out your service to the marketplace where the unit economics stack up, where you're not bleeding money, maybe like break even at most, or maybe you can be profitable. That's the ideal scenario, So maybe, sometimes you got to think outside the box, Um, so for example, like grocery delivery service, maybe you can think of like a B2B sort of channel, Maybe you can approach like businesses, then get the businesses when you try to cater to like the entire like office and stuff. So that is something that might be like might make sense economically. Maybe you can like call them or email them or even visit them in person in the start just to kick this off the ground. So that's what I meant by thinking of the marketing strategy during conception, not like build the product so far in, then only think like, oh, how am I gonna get this service or app out the world, But before that, already thinking, planning, and analyzing similar competitors in the local market, in other markets, how do you like advertising it profitably?
Gotcha. I know, and for your information, I'm not sure how much you're familiar with the Indian startup ecosystem. Even I was not, but then when I came to India from the US, like literally, they have seen this ecosystem is booming here. And check out the story of Zepto. It's called ZEPTO. Their success story is crazy. There is over $1 billion in last 3 4 months at
Wow.
5 billion valuation. And what they do is like last mile grocery delivery service. Like literally, you can get your grocery in your home sitting in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or something like that.
Wow.
Like I'm shocked what's happening in India in last mile delivery and grocery delivery. Like every brand is like competing with each other. I'm a couple of days back I was seeing a news like literally Amazon is going to start their last mile like 5 minutes, 10 minutes delivery grocery service. So it's a very competitive market when it comes to B2C. Like I mean like direct to consumer perspective you see, and there are a bunch of competitors out there, big giants like literally. Zepto is going IPO very soon. Like literally, I'm just waiting for when they're going to announce IPO. The company value is at more than $5 6 billion already. So that's something that is happening in India because of this mass population as well on the side. We are 1.4 billion people, it's like sitting here. So it's crazy. My point is to Pranav. I appreciate what you said. Like literally, you need to start small. What you said, like Royston. So Pranav, if you're hearing this, Like start small, validate your product locally first, then go and have your competitive advantage or competitive edge, or talk about like the strategies, how you can compete with the existing giants. So maybe you can start small. Starting small means like test your, validate your idea. Like I know it's very competitive market, and I'm not sure what you're building exactly, but then in the local area, start, let's say, pretend that you are already a big company, and then have the MVP, the viable product that you are thinking as a, going to be a evolved product, like taste that out in the local market, like local area, and see and get the insight from that. Like having a feedback mechanism is a very important factor. The more feedback that you get at early stage, the better. And based on that, you can easily start getting your stuff rolling. So think about like having that as it says. And to answer your question about guide me through digital marketing strategies for this, yeah, it depends. Like, yeah, I don't know at what stage you are, but we can take it offline and we can dig deeper later on as well. So Royston, thank you so much for sharing that. Would you mind going ahead and answer Son's question?
Yeah, I'll answer
He's been
Sean's
asking this on
question.
YouTube. Like, well, so we are multi-streaming right now, by the way. So questions are coming from all different channels. So why don't you just like go ahead and also I saw on your IG that you are wearing a USC cert. Not sure if you're an alumni, but I went to USC and recently left to pursue my business. Go Trojans!
Yeah, I studied at USC as well. Alumni as well. Did an exchange study over there. So that's awesome, Sean. Yeah, so Sean has a remote sales coaching. So that is something that I'm very familiar with, the coaching sort of space and stuff. What point should we scale from organic content to paid ads for my coaching offer? Yeah, sure. That's a really good question. Um, so I just want to preface, like, when it comes to remote sales coaching and stuff, I know a couple of people in the same space. The ones that are successful, like rather than teaching like beginners from scratch how to be a sales pro, um, that's okay. That's like the lower end of the market and stuff. But I've seen a lot of coaching offers are really successful by taking existing salespeople, people in insurance, door to door and stuff, solar and stuff, because these people really have some sort of experience and money, and transitioning them to remote sales. When should you start doing paid ads? Like I recommend today, just start doing paid ads today already. You might lose money and stuff when it comes to paid ads, but it's all like testing and stuff. Because you're already successful, Sean, with your current sales role as well as your coaching already. You're already successful with both, so I just recommend to start already.
So Son is saying, in fact, my target audience is transitioning door-to-door people to remote sales.
Yeah, I know people running YouTube ads. Like I met a couple of people recently in New York. I was just in New York like a couple of weeks ago. I just met a couple of people doing the exact same thing you're doing. Um, they are running like YouTube ads as well as like social media ads and stuff. Um, you can message me on Instagram later. We can discuss further. I can guide you better because I literally just met a couple of people did the exact same thing.
And I think what
Um,
Son is doing, Royston, the channel marketing that we're talking about, the funnel-based marketing is he's going to be very effective in this kind of like a
mhm.
service-based company or service-based thing that you are providing. Like let's say you have your videos. What is the Whoop event? What is it?
Yes,
The
that
Whoop event?
that's correct. It's like this
I don't
great.
know what's going on between the two Trojans, but it's like a different out of the word, the wording that you guys are using. But anyways, to answer Swan's point as well, I think explore the channel based, funnel based marketing model as a strategy. Like have some, let's say if you have a course on digital marketing, get get the check out our academy page. We also have an academy.expertdojo.com as page where we have like a bunch of course that we recorded internally, and then we get it out to our founders, to have a look at it all the time. So maybe a funnel based marketing, we are not selling that at all, even though we have a price, but then it's for internal users. But then have one of the course open up in general, and then let people see what kind of content that you are providing, what kind of like coaching that you can or you can be amazing coach on, like how you can coach people better, and then get them to a part of your community and get some free resources to them, and then move them to the paid kind of thing. So start small, start free, build the community around it, and then push it to the paid based kind of like a coaching program or the service that you are providing. So thank you, Son, for asking amazing question, really. And that's what we meant by funnel based marketing, the channel. It's like channeling the sales funnel in a way. Cisco is asking one question about how do you determine if a marketing company or individual is worth it. I think that's an amazing point. Like literally, there are a bunch of people providing marketing service, and all these things, like an individual self-proclaimed CMO and all this stuff. Like, so that's really crazy, right? So in this world, again, like we started this session based on the trust factor, right? So how someone can trust when it comes to opting in for a marketing-based company or an individual when they are providing a marketing services and stuff. What's your point? What's your thought, Royston?
Yeah, great question. So like my company, like we do the marketing for a lot of firms directly, but for some firms that are like really big, we also work with some public listed companies and stuff. Um, what we've found is like it's better to find like niche specific agencies, because nowadays it's very hard to find like one really good agency that's really good at everything. Nowadays you got to find like this very specific agency, for example, like this agency that's very very good at like Amazon ads or like Amazon organic, or maybe like building a personal brand on LinkedIn, or maybe like building a personal brand on like another platform, that niche, like not just like building a personal brand sort of marketing agency, but something that's like platform specific as well, like or LinkedIn, then like or these specific case studies as well. So I've also like recruited a lot of like marketing companies and individuals as well, and that's like a mental model and framework that I go through as well, that I'm really well versed. But hiring a good marketing company is really important. Otherwise, the opportunity cost, you not only be losing a lot of money, but a lot of time as well. I recommend you create a spreadsheet in terms of like the, recruitment, like marketing companies and individuals you want to hire, and go through like a criteria, like you're hiring an individual and stuff. And the most important thing would be the case study. How specific is it to like what you want to do, both quality and quantity. And also like then the price point, and whether it's on a success fee basis, whether the risk is on you, on them. So many factors to take into account.
So, Royston, that brings to a really important questions. A lot of marketing agencies in general, they have this retainer-based model, right? So, what's your thought in general? Do you think, like, being an early stage founder, we don't have enough money, like founders doesn't have enough money to spend on, and these agencies are expensive. Like, even one person like providing CMO as a service is very expensive in general. So, what's your thought? Like, is it what kind of model is very sustainable? You are seeing thing which that you are seeing in general that it ethically right to have that kind of a model, because you don't want to be getting a lot of money from an early stage founder who has not raised enough, right? So what do you think, like what kind of model is very sustainable? I'm just asking this question for the people who are watching and and aiming to kind of like trying to build their marketing agencies or sales agencies and stuff like that. Do they have to have just like retainer based model and don't worry about too much on the other equity side or anything, or should it be a mix? Should it be a success fee kind of model? What model do you think is going to be more successful going forward? Because seeing the competitive landscape of this whole domain, and then we'll get back to one more question and then we call it a day.
Yeah, for sure. Everything is based about trust. Like um if you really have so much conviction on this company that they're gonna deliver results and stuff, then people don't mind paying like a retainer and stuff. But usually when starting out, like if we lack the case studies and testimonials and stuff, it's always better to do on a success fee basis, result sort of basis, to gather the initial testimonials and reviews and case studies and stuff. Then once, the more case studies and success stories we can stack up, then that's why we can slowly command a higher and higher price based on like what we deserve and what we can actually command. So it's like sort of an evolution to things.
That's amazing. Okay, Royston, the amazing insight. What would be the two recommendations for early stage founder that you wanna give? In general, if they're looking to build their own business and stuff. And then I'll have one more question, and then we'll say goodbye and happy New Year to everyone who's watching. What are the two strategies that you would recommend for early stage founders to build and to be more focused on for 2025 and get pumped up before the year starts?
Sure. When it comes to early stage founders, like depends on like what they're selling. Are we talking about like software SaaS founders? Are we talking about like Sean is doing, like um remote sales coaching and stuff? Really depends. But as I shared in earlier, like have a bias when it comes to sales and marketing, because only with execution, sales, marketing, talking more customers and stuff, that's where you can improve your product better. A lot of people think, oh, like they hide away, they create this amazing product and they put out to the world only for people to not want it and stuff. But it's better to, put it out to the market, an imperfect sort of product or service, and get feedback on what people actually want. So having that bias of like early, try to get that early product market fit and get your product or service out to the world, having that bias and stuff. Second strategy is like the best founders are like the best in marketing. You take Steve Jobs, like Elon Musk, these people are the best in marketing and sales, like Mr. Beast. They're the best and they don't let go of it. So like the best companies and founders are also the best in marketing and sales. So people think like, oh, I'm like this product guy, then oh, I just delegate the marketing stuff. If you have a co-founder that's good at that, sure, but you gotta learn. You can't just like delegate something that you don't know or delegate something that we're not good at. So I think learning marketing and sales very, very important, especially if you're like doing this yourself.
And where they can learn from about digital marketing in general, like how they can influence people on LinkedIn, for instance.
Nowadays there's so much of free resources on YouTube and stuff. Like
Or
the
maybe chat GPT is like ask the prompt and have a prompt based learning.
exactly, there you go. Yeah.
Interesting. Pranay, Pranav is saying thanks for your valuable insight, and he will certainly work on the strategy that you mentioned. And he's also asking, is Expert Dojo looking for investment in India Tier 2 cities? Entrepreneurs, of course. We don't have any biases based on the tiers categories at all. Like, we want to see where the innovation is coming from. It doesn't matter you are coming from Tier 4 or a remote area or a village. If you have a capacity to build something the world needs, we're there for you. And we have invested in a lot of companies. Like, literally, I was in Jaipur, we have a portfolio company sitting there. I was in like Bihar, we have a portfolio company sitting there. We have like peer portfolio company in Bangalore to Delhi to metropolitan city to Santa Monica to SF, like literally all over. So there's, in this digital world per se, if I say, and decentralized world, which is the world is going towards, it doesn't matter which tier categories you're coming from. If you have like literally an amazing product that the world needs, honestly, we can have a conversation for sure from for the investment perspective. And we're going to back a lot of Indian founders. That's the reason why we are opening our office in India for the first time ever outside US. If you've been following Expert Dojo, then you might know, and then Royston, again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's very insightful conversation, and I'm looking forward to our continued conversation as well on everything. But before you, leave the show, like just remind a couple of things if you want to talk about a little bit again, like what are the services that you provide, how people can reach out to you if they need any kind of those services and stuff, or in general, or any conversation in general, how someone can reach out. Or would you mind just speaking out loud your email, and then talk a little bit about the service again, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah, for sure. You can always hit me up on any social media platform that you use best, LinkedIn, Instagram, on my personal email or like my social media, Royston G. King. Um, the again the four quadrants that I'll say like we are world class at is number one, digital marketing. When it comes to like paid ads, and stuff. Number two is social media growth. Third is positive publicity, getting featured on top publications and stuff. And fourth is negative publicity removal. These four quadrants, I think we're like world class at. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And if anyone reach out to us, we'll definitely get you in touch with the folks, after watching the show. And then, just hit Royston hard. Like, he's an amazing, gem of a person, honestly, when it comes to digital marketing that we know in our ecosystem, in our, community, small community as well. So hit him up at LinkedIn, or if you cannot find him, just reach out to us, and then we can get you in touch with Royston. And everyone, again, have a happy new year. We are like 2 days away from completing the journey. Like 2025 is very important. If you add all the numbers, 2 plus 2 plus 0 plus 5, it's 9. That's the highest mathematical digit.
Wow.
So this year like is going to be like, astronomically or mathematically or in general amazing year, because the economy is also kind of like getting more pumped up. And be prepared, venture money is ready for deployment. There is a lot happening, and we are super pumped as well. So I think next year is very important for everyone. So I really appreciate you all watching and showing us your love all the time. Royston, again, thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate you coming over, and we'll be in touch. Let us know like how can we help, and then how can our founders get benefit. We'll continue our conversation post the conversation as well. But thank you again. Thank you for coming over. Really appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone. A happy New Year.
Yeah. Thanks again,